The boarding pass printer screamed, an ugly, double-toned whine that made every head in the United lobby turn. I stood at the edge of the premier line at LAX with my palms burning from designer luggage handles, the smell of roasted airport coffee mixing with jet fuel like a promise that didn't belong to me. Fluorescent lights flattened everything into the same pale color: faces, ceilings, even shame, and the polished tile threw our family back at us in reflections that looked staged. My brother, Garrett Roach, leaned on the counter like he owned it. He wore a tailored hoodie and expensive sneakers, and money had smoothed his life into something that never looked tired. He laughed with the agent like they were old friends, like the world was always eager to help him. "First class for them," he said, nodding at our parents and his wife. "Family trip?" The agent smiled, tapped keys, and glossy boarding passes slid out. Thick, clean, official. My mother accepted hers with both hands as if it were communion. My father took his with a slow nod, already scanning for the lounge sign. Garrett's wife, Blanca, checked her pass and then checked her reflection in her phone camera. Coconut sunscreen followed her like a brand. Their kids bounced at her knees, iPads glowing like tiny televisions. Then Garrett turned to me. He pinched a flimsy thermal ticket between two fingers and held it out like damp trash. He didn't give it to me right away. He let it hang there so strangers could see the hierarchy he was building. "And the economy," he said, smirking. "Don't complain." I stared at the ticket. 42E, middle. A seat number that sounded like punishment. My parents did what they always did when Garrett drew blood in public. They looked down. My mother's eyes dropped to her purse strap. My father's gaze fixed on the counter display. Their silence was a family tradition. Blanca tilted her head and smiled without warmth. "It's fine," she said. "You're used to cheap." My chest stayed still. My pulse didn't. I had worn body armor under desert suns. I'd briefed men who panicked with weapons in their hands. I had learned how to keep my face calm when a room tried to push you into the floor. What I hadn't learned, what I'd refused to learn, was how to keep swallowing humiliation just because it wore a family name. Garrett tapped the economy pass against my forearm, light as a flick, like he was labeling luggage. "Economy builds character," he said. The agent's eyes flicked to my hands, to the luggage, then away, trained neutrality. Behind me, a businessman in a suit watched with the faint interest of someone consuming someone else's discomfort for free. My mother finally tried to patch it with softness. "Maya, it's only a flight." I looked at her, then at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He stood there with the posture of a man who'd learned to survive by aligning himself with the loudest person in the room. Garrett's grin widened. "See?" he said. "Mom gets it." I set one trunk down carefully, then another, so the handles stopped biting. The tile felt cold under my fingertips when I straightened. Air conditioning kissed the sweat at the back of my neck. "I'm not complaining," I said. Garrett's eyebrows lifted, amused. "Good," he said, "because that's all you can handle." The line behind us shifted, subtle tightening, a hush that wasn't support, just curiosity. Garrett loved an audience. He fed on it the way some men fed on oxygen. He turned back to the agent and nodded toward the trunks. "We're checking those," he said, pointing like he was directing staff. "She'll carry the rest." My jaw tightened once, then released. I didn't give him a reaction. Reactions were what he traded for power. The agent printed baggage tags and looped them around handles like paper cuffs. My mother clutched her first-class pass tighter. My father's shoulders rose with pride that didn't belong to him. And under all of it, an old memory flashed hot. Thanksgiving, years ago, cinnamon candles burning too sweet over turkey grease. Garrett's Tesla blocking the driveway like a flex. I'd arrived late from a work trip, still smelling faintly of antiseptic wipes and aircraft metal. I'd been exhausted enough to see double under their chandelier. My father had looked at the clock like he was inspecting a failure. "Late," he'd said. Garrett had laughed. "Paperwork's exhausting, huh?" Everyone had smiled like it was harmless. They never asked where I really went. They never asked what I really did. They preferred the version of me that fit their story. The sister who shuffled forms, the daughter who didn't threaten the family's chosen golden boy. When I'd been promoted, I hadn't posted it. I hadn't invited them. I'd learned to keep my real life sealed behind my teeth because my family didn't celebrate honor. Only dominance, see. Back in the lobby, Garrett scooped up the glossy passes and pointed toward security. Come on, he said. We don't want to mix. He started walking, and my parents followed. Obedient. Blanca adjusted her sunglasses indoors. The kids bounced along, already bored. I moved last, carrying what they didn't want to carry, holding the economy ticket between two fingers like a thin insult. At TSA, Garrett sailed through pre-check with his family, laughing about a podcast he'd listened to on the way to the airport, while I balanced bags and shoes and quiet compliance. My mother glanced back once, eyes apologetic, then snapped forward again when Garrett said something to her, quiet, controlling, practiced. My father never looked back. We reached the gate area and the smell changed. Pretzels, spilled soda, warm metallic air from too many bodies waiting near planes. Garrett sprawled in a lounge chair like he owned oxygen. Blanca wiped the armrest with sanitizer before letting the kids sit. Garrett waved his phone at me. Text me when you board, he said. Don't get lost. I sat across from them, a few seats away, close enough to be useful, far enough to be invisible. The vinyl chair felt cold through my pants. The overhead announcements droned. A toddler cried somewhere. Life kept moving like nothing was wrong. I didn't cry. I opened my wallet slowly and let my thumb find the edge of the card I never showed in rooms like this. Black, matte, smooth as a secret. I didn't pull it out. I didn't flash it. I just felt its weight under my thumb, steady and real, like touching a weapon without drawing it. Across the seats, Garrett laughed at something on his phone, then looked up and tossed the economy pass line again like it was his favorite spell. Economy, he said, still amused. Don't complain. I looked past him at the jet bridge door window where a tiny flag sticker sat on the glass. Bright, still, stubbornly present. My breath slowed to match it. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. Not a group chat. Not a boarding alert. A bank notification lit the screen, and the number on it didn't make sense. The notification sat on my screen like a punch that didn't bruise, just emptied the air. United Airlines, $18,742.19. Approved. For a second, the gate area noise blurred into a distant hum. The smell of pretzels and spilled soda turned sour in my throat, and the vinyl chair under me suddenly felt too cold, too real. 18,000. That wasn't a family trip. That was an upgrade bought with my name. I didn't look at Garrett. I didn't give him the satisfaction of catching my face change. I kept my expression neutral, like I'd done in briefing rooms where panic could get people killed. I opened the banking app with steady fingers. The details loaded. Card present, airport counter. My pulse tightened into something clean. At the counter, where Garrett had been handling boarding passes like a proud son, where he'd leaned in close to the agent with that relaxed entitlement, where my parents had stood silent and let him shape the room. I scrolled down. Another charge waited below it. Louis Vuitton, $2,830 pending. The trunks, the ones that had bitten into my palms like punishment. My jaw locked for half a beat, then released. This wasn't about a middle seat. This was theft, dressed in family language. A flash of memory hit. 3 weeks earlier, Garrett at my front door with a grin too bright and a tone too casual. What's your card limit? He'd asked. I'd frowned. Why? He'd laughed. Just planning. Then he'd dropped his voice like he was sharing something intimate. Dad wants the upgrade. I'd said no. I'd said I didn't mix money and family. I'd said I'd handle my own accounts. Garrett had smiled anyway. Relax, he'd said. I'll handle it. I'd thought he meant logistics. He'd meant my life. Back at the gate, boarding announcements rolled on, cheerful and indifferent. People stood, shifted, lined up. My family gathered their things like they'd been called to an altar. Now boarding, global services, 1K, and active duty military in uniform. The words floated out of the speaker, and for a moment my body reacted the way it always did, spine straightening, eyes tracking, a small internal click. I didn't wear my uniform in airports if I could avoid it. It drew eyes, it invited questions, it made strangers think they owned pieces of your story. But I was still active duty, still a colonel, still trained to read a room and choose the right moment. Garrett popped up instantly, stretching like a man born to priority lanes. That's us, he said, gathering Blanca and the kids with quick efficiency. Blanca didn't look up from her phone. Finally, she muttered. My parents rose behind them, obedient as ever. My mother clutched her first-class pass like it was protection. My father adjusted his jacket collar and stared past everyone else, already imagining lounge chairs and free drinks. Garrett glanced at me over his shoulder. Wait, he said. Board last. I nodded once, calm. Okay. He disappeared down the jet bridge, first-class passes flashing like badges. My parents followed. Blanca followed. Their kids followed, bouncing and whining, never once looking back. I stayed seated. I didn't chase, I didn't confront. Not here, not where Garrett could turn it into a tantrum and my parents could pretend it was just Maya being dramatic. Not where Blanca could film me and call it a meltdown. Not where the story would become my tone instead of his theft. I needed a record first. I slid the black card out just enough to feel its matte edge under my thumb, then pushed it back into my wallet and zipped it shut slowly. The zipper rasp sounded louder than it should have in my own ears. Then I called the fraud line. A recorded voice answered, then a woman with a calm tone. Fraud prevention, this is Elise. I kept my voice low. This is Maya Roach. Unauthorized charges, happening now. Are you safe? She asked. Yes, I said. I need documentation first. There was a pause, professional recalibration. Tell me what you're seeing. I stared at the jet bridge door, at the tiny flag sticker on the glass, bright and still. United Airlines, 18,000 approved, card present, counter. Do you recognize the purchase? Elise asked. No, I said. And don't cancel it yet. Silence, then careful. Ma'am, we can freeze. Not yet, I said. Flag it. Capture merchant details. Her voice softened into understanding, not sympathy. Understood. Opening a case now. I'll send a verification email with a case number and terminal details. Send it, I said. And the Louis Vuitton charge? She asked. Same, I said. Capture everything. Keys clicked on her end. Do you want us to contact the merchant? Not yet, I said. I need him unaware. A beat. Understood. You'll need a statement for reversal. You'll get it, I said. I ended the call and stared at my banking screen again. The charges sat there like fingerprints. Behind them, the old family script tried to rise in my throat. Don't embarrass Dad. Don't upset Mom. Don't make a scene. I'd followed that script long enough to finance Garrett's life without realizing it. A new email pinged in. Case opened. Suspected unauthorized use. Merchant details attached. I opened it and saw the timestamp. The terminal. The counter ID, proof, neat and impersonal. Paper had always been a weapon in my world. We called it documentation, but I'd watched it move mountains and end careers. I typed one text to the only person I trusted to move fast without drama. Tom, an old friend from training, now a federal liaison who spoke consequence like a native language. Need airport security contact. Fraud in progress. I didn't add family. I didn't add emotion. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Call me. I typed back instead, fingers steady. Boarding, destination H&L. Keep him unaware. Meet baggage claim. A pause. Then Tom replied, Understood. I'll be there. Save everything. My chest loosened by a fraction. Boarding moved to later groups. The waiting area thinned. A cleaning cart rolled past, lemon disinfectant sharp in the air. The gate agent called final boarding with the tone of someone reciting weather. I stood when my zone was called. I walked to the scanner with my economy pass and my calm face, and the agent barely looked up. The scanner beeped, the jet bridge door hissed open, and warm tunnel air wrapped around me. Metal, old carpet, recycled breath. I stepped onto the jet bridge like I was stepping into Garrett's story. First class ahead, economy behind. Me in the narrow middle where he'd always kept me. I didn't rush. I didn't slow. Each step felt measured, deliberate, controlled. Inside the plane, the smell changed, perfume and coffee, disinfectant, trying to pretend it could erase human behavior. The first-class curtain lifted and settled with the air system, soft fabric breathing like a boundary. As I passed it, I caught a glimpse of Garrett's seat, wide, bright, already claiming him. He was laughing at something on his phone, champagne in hand, living inside the assumption that I would swallow this too. I kept walking toward row 42, toward the middle seat he thought was my place. My phone buzzed again as I reached my row. Another bank alert slid across the screen. United Club, $1,000 and dollars. Approved. My jaw tightened. He was still spending, still testing how much of me he could use before I fought back. I didn't look up. I didn't turn around. I typed one line to Tom with the calm of someone updating a mission log. New charge. He's escalating. Then I slid into 42E, buckled my seatbelt, and felt the thin pull cushion press against my hips like an insult trying to become normal. I stared at the seat back screen as the flight map loaded, the cabin filling with the soft chaos of travel, bins slamming, people shuffling, a baby crying. And under all that noise, I held one quiet truth like a blade kept sheathed. Garrett thought he'd bought first class, but what he'd really purchased was evidence. The first class curtain breathed as the plane's air system kicked on. Soft fabric lifting, settling, like a door that wanted to pretend it wasn't a door. I walked past it with my economy pass pinched between two fingers, my face calm enough to be boring. The cabin smelled like coffee and disinfectant, and the overhead bins snapped shut with impatient thuds. Up front, laughter floated easy, champagne laughter, like consequences were something that happened to other people. Garrett sat in 2A, reclined like the seat had been built around him. A flute of champagne caught the light and flashed against his watch. Blanca sat beside him with her sunglasses still on, scrolling like the world existed to entertain her. My parents were across the aisle, shoulders already loosening under comfort. Garrett saw me and grinned. Middle seat? He called, loud enough to travel. I didn't stop. For now, I said. Blanca's mouth curved without warmth. Don't stare, she muttered. I kept moving. I didn't give them a show. Shows were Garrett's oxygen. Row 42 felt like a different country. Narrower, warmer, louder. The seat cushion was thin beneath me, and the air back there smelled faintly of warmed carpet and hand sanitizer. A man on my left claimed the armrest like he'd purchased it. A woman on my right slept with her mouth open, perfume thick as a curtain. I buckled in and rested my hands on my thighs until my breathing matched the steady hum of the plane. Then I checked my phone again. The United charge sat there, bright and approved. The Louis Vuitton charge still read pending, like it was waiting for permission to become real. I opened Elise's email and reread the merchant details slowly, letting the numbers settle into something usable. Terminal ID, counter reference, timestamp. It wasn't anger that steadied me, it was structure. My phone vibrated. Tom's message thread was still open. I typed without drama. Boarded. Seat 42E. Destination H&L. He's spending. Keep him unaware. A pause. Then Tom replied, Understood. I'm at baggage claim when you land. Don't confront on board. I stared at that last line for a beat, then set the phone down on my lap. The plane began to taxi, the floor vibrating under my shoes. The engines rumbled deeper, patient and heavy, like something big waking up. As we turned onto the runway, I let myself remember one thing. One clean flash of why my family's version of me had always been useful. 2 years ago, my promotion ceremony had been in a small auditorium that smelled like fresh paint and burnt coffee. The flag behind the stage had hung bright and still. My commander had pinned my insignia with hands that didn't tremble. I'd stood at attention, shoulders squared, accepting a rank that came with responsibility I'd earned the hard way. My mother hadn't come. My father had texted, proud, keep it quiet. Garrett had called later and laughed. So you're important now? I'd let it slide. I'd always let it slide because I'd thought swallowing was the same as being good. The plane surged forward and the push pressed me into the thin seat cushion. My ears popped as we lifted, LA shrinking into clouds that looked soft enough to forgive anything. I watched the seatback map animate our climb over the Pacific and felt my mind click into mission mode. Garrett had stolen. He'd forged. He was still spending. That meant he believed I was still the sister who would absorb it. He was wrong. The seatbelt sign pinged off. People stood, stretched, reached for bags, the aisle clogged with bodies. Ice clinked as carts rolled. Somewhere near the lavatories, the flush sound hit like a mechanical cough. A flight attendant stopped at my row. Her name tag read Kim. She looked tired but sharp, the way competent people looked in chaotic spaces. "Everything okay back here?" she asked, routine. I kept my voice low. "I needed an incident note," I said. "Unauthorized charge tied to this flight." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not suspicion, focus. "Did you speak to the gate?" "The door was closing," I said. "I filed fraud. I need it noted." Kim glanced down at her handheld device. "Name?" "Maya Roach," she typed. "Seat?" "42E." Her fingers moved fast. "Do you know who used the card?" I didn't point. I didn't glance forward. I didn't hand her a family scene. "Family," I said. Kim's mouth tightened as if she'd heard that word in too many painful versions. "I'll note it," she said. "Don't confront on board." "I won't," I said. She moved on, cartwheels squeaking softly, leaving me with a small, quiet record in a system Garrett didn't respect. Hours passed in the steady discomfort of economy. Knees tight, air dry, strangers too close. I drank water, watched a movie without seeing it, and checked my phone whenever the plane's Wi-Fi bothered to cooperate. The LV charge flipped from pending to approved mid-flight. My jaw tightened, then eased. More documentation. Then another charge appeared, smaller but uglier in its casualness. United Club. He'd bought lounge access with my name like he couldn't help himself. I updated Tom with one line. "New charge? United Club. Logged." Tom replied, "Good. Don't tip him." I stared at good until I understood it the way Tom meant it. Every extra dollar Garrett stole was another nail he hammered into his own story. I was halfway through a dry, tasteless snack pack when movement in the aisle caught my eye. A familiar hoodie, expensive sneakers, stepping carefully around knees and bags. Garrett was walking back from first class, holding a plastic cup like he belonged everywhere. He moved with casual confidence and stopped at my row, leaning down just enough to block the aisle so strangers had to look at him. "There you are," he said, smiling. "You okay back here?" I met his eyes. "I was fine," I said. His gaze flicked to my hands, then to my purse. "Don't lose your wallet," he said, voice light, eyes sharp. A warning disguised as concern. I kept my tone calm. "You already found it," I said. His smile twitched for a fraction of a second, just a crack, then snapped back into place. "Don't be dramatic," he muttered. "I wasn't," I said. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Stay quiet," he said. "For Mom?" The old leash, the old command. I didn't move. "For truth," I said. Garrett stared like he didn't recognize my voice anymore. He searched my face for the old softness he could push around, and when he didn't find it, irritation took its place. "You've been weird lately," he said. He straightened, patted the seat back like I was furniture, and walked forward again. His cup sloshed slightly, and I watched him disappear behind the first-class curtain as if nothing had happened. But something had. He'd come back to check my posture, to make sure I was still in the role he wrote for me, which told me everything I needed to know. He hadn't planned for resistance. He hadn't planned for records. He hadn't planned for Tom. The rest of the flight crawled. Cabin lights dimmed, then brightened. People slept in chunks. The air dried out until my throat felt like paper. Outside the window, the Pacific was only darkness and reflected cabin glow. When the pilot finally announced our descent, bodies stirred like a herd waking. The seatbelt sign chimed on. The plane tilted, and my stomach floated for a second before settling. Honolulu's lights appeared beneath the clouds, scattered like a spilled necklace on black water. The smell in the cabin shifted, less recycled, more humid, as if the island's air was already pushing in. We landed with a hard, final thump. The cabin shuddered. Overhead bins clicked open. People stood too early. The aisle clogged again, impatience thick. I stayed seated until my row could move. I didn't rush to be first off. I needed Garrett to feel safe. I needed him strolling toward baggage claim with the same entitlement he'd boarded with. As I stepped into the jet bridge, warm, humid air hit my face. Salt and jet fuel, damp and real. The little flag sticker on the window flashed past again, bright and stubborn. I breathed with it. Then my phone vibrated. A new fraud update from Elise slid across the screen, and the words tightened everything into a single point. Merchant video requested. Available upon arrival. Honolulu hit my lungs like warm salt the moment the cabin door opened. Humid air rushed into the jet bridge, plumeria from somewhere unseen, jet fuel from the tarmac, damp fabric from tired travelers, and it clung to my skin like the island had decided I belonged to it more than my family ever had. Ahead of me, first-class passengers flowed off the plane first, laughter light and careless, as if privilege came with gravity. Garrett didn't look back. He walked with Blanca and the kids like the world was built to clear a path for him. My parents followed, quiet and compliant, faces softened by comfort they hadn't paid for. I stayed behind them, keeping just enough distance to let their story continue unbothered. At the end of the jet bridge, I caught the tiny flag sticker on the window again, bright and stubborn, and I matched my breathing to it like I always did when I needed control without display. In the terminal, the noise thickened. Flip-flops slapped tile. Suitcases rattled. Overhead fans pushed warm air that smelled like sunscreen and coffee. The Aloha signs tried to make everything feel gentle, but my phone in my palm felt like a live wire. Tom's message blinked at the top of my screen. Baggage claim 19. Blue shirt. Don't approach them yet. I moved with the crowd, steady, head up, eyes scanning exits the way training had taught me. My wallet sat heavy in my bag. The black card's matte edge seemed to press against my mind even when I wasn't touching it. Baggage claim 19 was bright and loud, belts clanking as they came alive. The air smelled like wet luggage and floral air freshener. People leaned in toward the carousel like it owed them something. Tom stood near a pillar exactly where he said he would. Blue shirt, plain jeans, posture too straight to be casual. He didn't wave. He just watched the flow like he was counting variables. When he saw me, he gave a single nod. No reunion. No sympathy. Just readiness. Tom, I said. Maya, he replied. The simple exchange tightened my chest with something I hadn't felt at the gate. Support that didn't ask me to shrink. He angled his body slightly so he could see the carousel and the concourse at once. They pulled the counter footage, he said. Not everything. My stomach went cold, not with fear. Focus. What part? Tom's jaw flexed once. The signature. That word landed like a hammer. I didn't blink. Show me. We walked toward a United customer care desk tucked near the edge of the claim area. A supervisor stood there with a tablet and a tight smile, and a security officer in brown uniform waited beside her, hands clasped, like this was just another day. Tom spoke first, low and clean. We have an active fraud case, he said. The supervisor's smile shifted into professionalism. Ms. Roach? She asked. Yes, I said. She gestured toward a small space behind a low partition. Private desk, she said. The air behind the partition smelled like disinfectant and warm electronics. A small monitor sat on the desk, its fan whispering. The supervisor clicked through menus with the careful speed of someone who didn't want to make a mistake on camera. The screen loaded a grainy view of the LAX counter. Even pixelated, I recognized Garrett's posture immediately. Shoulders relaxed, chin lifted, the confidence of a man who believed consequences were for other people. I saw my black card appear on the counter like a stolen key. My throat tightened once, then steadied. The clip jumped forward. The Louis Vuitton trunks sat on the scale. The agent gestured. Garrett nodded. Then the signature pad turned toward him. He didn't hesitate. He picked up the stylus and signed my name like he owned it. Bold loops. Fast slant. No fear. The supervisor paused the frame on the signature. Is that him? She asked quietly. Yes, I said. Tom's voice stayed flat. That's forgery. The security officer's gaze sharpened. You didn't authorize? He asked. No, I said. The supervisor's fingers moved again, pulling up the purchase details. United Airlines, the United Club charge, Louis Vuitton. The numbers lined up like bullet points in a briefing. I didn't feel anger in that moment. I felt clean confirmation. Tom leaned closer, voice low. We log this, he said. We keep it controlled. I nodded once. Print the incident report, I said. The supervisor swallowed and nodded, hands already moving. The printer whined, then spat paper. Toner smell rose sharp and familiar, proof becoming physical. Mini turn, laughter rolled across the baggage claim noise. I looked up. Garrett had arrived at Carousel 19 like a king returning to his court. Blanca stood beside him, sunglasses on, kids bouncing and whining. My parents hovered behind them, faces careful, already trying to pretend nothing was wrong. Garrett spotted me near the desk and waved with exaggerated friendliness, the way people did when they needed strangers to think everything was fine. He started walking toward us. Tom shifted half a step closer, subtle, protective. The supervisor's eyes widened. Is that him? She whispered. Yes, I said. Garrett reached us with a bright smile meant for witnesses. There you are, he said. We thought you got lost. I kept my face calm. I found my way. His eyes flicked to Tom, irritation flashing. Who's this? Liaison, Tom said. Garrett's smile tightened. For what? I answered without heat. My card. Garrett laughed, too sharp. Your card? He repeated like the idea was ridiculous. I didn't touch your card. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I let his lie hang in the humid air where cameras and printed reports could breathe around it. Behind him, Blanca closed the distance, voice tight. Don't start, she muttered. My mother hovered at the edge of our circle, eyes shining with fear. My father's gaze darted around the terminal, already searching for the fastest way to make this disappear. Garrett leaned closer to me, voice low and cutting. We'll talk later, he said. I held his eyes. We'll talk in light, I said. His smile faltered for a fraction of a second, just long enough to show the crack. The security officer lifted his radio slightly. Static crackled once, small and sharp. Garrett's eyes darted toward the exits again, and I saw the calculation rise behind them. Leave first, rewrite later. He reached back toward Blanca's wrist like he was about to pull his family into motion. Then his hand stopped midair, frozen by the supervisor stepping forward with the freshly printed incident form. Mr. Roach, she said, steady now, we have counter footage. Garrett's face held a smile that didn't fit anymore, and the humid air suddenly felt like it had teeth. Garrett's smile stayed on his face like it had been glued there. Footage? He repeated, laughing too sharp. Come on. Blanca slid in behind him, sunglasses still on, lips tight. This is harassment, she snapped. My father's eyes darted around the terminal like he was searching for a door that led back to a world where money solved everything. My mother hovered at the edge of our circle, hands twisting together, her face pale in the bright baggage claim lights. Tom didn't raise his voice. Sir, step aside, he said. Garrett's smile thinned. Who are you? Liaison, Tom replied. Garrett turned that polished grin back on the United supervisor like charm could rewrite pixels. This is family, he said. She's confused. I kept my tone flat. I'm documented. The supervisor held the incident form at chest level, paper steady now. Mr. Roach, she said, please come with us. Garrett's eyes flicked toward the exits again, quick, instinctive. Then he forced his gaze back onto the supervisor, back onto the performance. We're on vacation, he said. Don't ruin this. Blanca leaned forward, voice sharp. Stop being dramatic, she said to me. I didn't look at her. I looked at Garrett. Say it again, I said. You didn't touch it. Garrett's jaw tightened. I didn't touch it. The security officer in brown uniform lifted his radio slightly. Static crackled once. Sir, he said, private desk. Garrett's smile wobbled and then snapped back into place. Fine, he said. Let's clear this up. He tried to shepherd my parents away with a tilt of his shoulder. Come on, he said to them. Ignore this. My mother didn't move. Not yet. My father finally spoke, low and irritated. Maya, stop. I met his eyes for a beat. He stole, I said. My father's face tightened, not with concern, calculation. Not here, he hissed. Tom's voice cut clean, still calm. Here's where cameras are, he said. Garrett flinched at that, just a microsecond. Then he lifted his hands, palms open, innocent staged. Let's see it, he said. Whatever clip. The supervisor led us behind the low partition into the small customer care space. The air smelled like disinfectant and warm electronics. A monitor sat on the desk, its fan whispering. The printer beside it hummed like it was already tired of human behavior. Two airport police officers stepped into the opening and stayed there. Present, quiet, not theatrical. The kind of presence that turned rich men careful. The supervisor clicked through menus and looked at me once. Ready? She asked. I nodded. Play. The video rolled. No sound, no mercy. LAX counter, boarding passes, my black card sliding onto the counter like a stolen key, the signature pad turning, Garrett picking up the stylus, Garrett signing my name, fast, confident, like he'd done it before. The desk area went dead quiet. Silence, thick enough to feel on my skin. Even Blanca stopped moving. Her sunglasses didn't hide the way her posture stiffened. One of the officers leaned closer to the screen. Sir, he said, is that you? Garrett's mouth opened. Nothing came out at first. Then he forced a laugh that didn't find air. It looks like me, he said. It is you, I said. Garrett snapped his gaze to me, anger trying to reboot. You let me, he hissed. You said I could. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I pointed at the freeze-frame signature on the screen, my name twisted into his handwriting. That's forgery, I said. Blanca's head whipped toward him. Garrett, she hissed. What did you do? Garrett's eyes flared. Shut up, he snapped. My mother made a small sound, air leaving her like something punctured. She pressed a hand to her mouth and looked away, as if seeing his pen move had broken something she'd spent years taping together. My father stared at the screen with a clenched jaw, not shocked by the act, shocked by the exposure. The supervisor moved like she'd practiced this in training videos. I can print the incident report with still frames, she said, voice careful. Do it, Tom said. The printer screamed to life, spitting paper that smelled sharply of toner and consequence. The supervisor laid the pages down. Purchase details, timestamps, counter ID, and a still image of Garrett's hand holding the stylus above my name. The first officer's tone stayed neutral. Sir, he said, you're being detained for questioning. Garrett jerked back a half step. Detained? He repeated, voice cracking slightly. This is insane, my father muttered. I didn't look at him. I watched Garrett. Garrett tried the move that had saved him his whole life, softening, charming, bargaining. Officer, he said, I can fix this. The officer didn't react. Not here, he said. Garrett's eyes darted toward Blanca, toward my parents, toward the open terminal beyond the partition. He was calculating the same way he'd always calculated. What's the fastest exit that leaves someone else holding the mess? He looked back at me, hatred sharpening. You're doing this, he whispered. I kept my voice calm. You did it. His nostrils flared. It's family, he spat, like the word was a pardon. It's a report, Tom said. Blanca stepped forward, voice rising. She's jealous, she snapped. She always was. One of the officers lifted a hand, palm out, calm authority. Ma'am, step back. Blanca froze, then swallowed it, trembling with fury. My mother's eyes found mine. Wet, panicked. Something else under the panic. Recognition, like she'd finally seen the cost of always choosing quiet. Garrett leaned toward my mother instead, trying another lever. Mom, he said, voice suddenly soft, tell them. My mother didn't speak. My father finally looked at her, a silent command passing between them. Fix it. Keep it inside the family. My mother's fingers tightened around her purse strap. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The officer placed 2 fingers lightly on Garrett's arm. Not violent, just directing. This way, he said. Garrett stiffened, then moved because he knew resistance loved cameras. As he stepped toward the side door, he threw one last look back at me, eyes narrow, mouth twisted. You're nothing, he said. The old spell, the same one he'd used at the gate, in my childhood, at every dinner table where he needed the room to believe he was bigger. I didn't step closer. I didn't raise my voice. I'm the account holder, I said. And you signed my name. He stared at me like he didn't recognize that kind of calm. Like he'd expected tears, shouting, pleading, anything he could mock later. The officer guided him through the side door. It closed with a soft, final click. Blanca lunged half a step, then stopped when the second officer's palm lifted again. Her eyes were bright now without the sunglasses. You did this, she hissed at me. I kept my voice flat. He did? My father's face tightened into anger he couldn't spend on the officers, so he spent it on me instead. Maya, he said, low and sharp. You've made your point. I turned toward him, still calm. I made a record, I said. My father's jaw worked. You're embarrassing us. I didn't blink. He used my name. My mother's shoulders shook once. She didn't cry loudly. She just looked like someone waking up in a room she'd been sleepwalking through for years. Tom accepted the printed incident packet from the supervisor and handed it to me. The paper was warm, smelling of toner and inevitability. Keep this, he murmured. I slid it into my folder without looking away from my father. The supervisor cleared her throat, voice careful. Miss Roach, you'll receive a copy and the police report number. Thank you, I said. We stepped out from behind the partition into the main baggage claim again, where the carousel clanked and suitcases thudded onto rubber like nothing important had happened. People walked past with lays and laughter, the island's softness brushing against the hard edge of what we'd just done. My parents stood under the bright lights, suddenly smaller. My father looked like he wanted to speak and couldn't decide which version of himself to wear. My mother looked at the carousel belt like it might carry her old life away if she waited long enough. A suitcase dropped with a dull thump. Another followed. The sound felt like punctuation. Blanca's voice sliced through it, aimed at my mother this time. Do something, she snapped. Fix this! My mother flinched, then didn't move. My father reached for control like muscle memory. We're leaving, he said, tight. Now. He grabbed a luggage handle as if motion could erase paper. Tom's eyes flicked to me. Aptos. You ready? I nodded once. Yes. As we started to walk, my father's hand lifted toward my folder, toward the printed report tucked inside, toward the proof he couldn't charm. Then he stopped, mid-reach, as if he'd remembered the cameras above us weren't family. The baggage carousel kept clanking like nothing important had happened. Suitcases thudded onto rubber. A family laughed over a stack of lays. The air smelled sweet with plumeria and sharp with disinfectant. And I held my folder against my ribs like it was the only thing in the terminal that told the truth. Tom guided me a few steps away from the customer care desk, not rushing, just moving me out of Garrett's reach and into a space where cameras could keep doing their quiet work. The printed incident packet warmed my palm through the folder, toner still faint in the air. My mother followed. Not fast, not confident. But she followed, her purse clutched tight, eyes glassy like she'd been forced to wake up mid-dream. My father stayed behind with Blanca and the kids, posture rigid, jaw clenched, managing optics instead of damage. Blanca's voice cut across the noise once, thin and sharp, then fell back into a hiss I didn't try to catch. Tom angled his head toward me. We take a statement, he murmured. I'll give it, I said. My mother's lips trembled. Maya. I met her eyes. You can stand here, I said softly, or you can stand with me. Her gaze flicked past me toward my father, habit, then returned. The old fear and the new truth battled across her face like weather. She nodded once. Okay. That one word felt heavier than any apology she'd ever offered. We walked down a side corridor marked Airport Operations. The air turned cooler, smelling of floor wax and bleach. A door buzzed, then opened with a mechanical click that sounded like a latch deciding to hold. Inside a small office, a ceiling vent rattled, and a desk fan hummed, pushing cold air that raised goosebumps on my forearms. A police officer sat behind a desk with a notepad, posture calm, eyes steady. "Ms. Roach?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She nodded to the chairs. "Have a seat." I sat. My mother sat beside me, hands locked in her lap like she was afraid they'd betray her. Tom stayed near the door, not looming, just present. The officer clicked her pen once. "Tell me what happened." I didn't give her the family version. I gave her the facts. "At LAX, my brother used my card at the counter," I said. "He signed my name." The officer's eyes sharpened. "You didn't authorize it?" "No." She glanced at the incident packet I slid across. The paper rasped softly on the desk. "And you have video?" "Yes." "Do you want to press charges?" she asked, flat and procedural. My mother made a small sound, air catching in her throat, then swallowed it. I didn't look at her to ask permission. I didn't look at Tom for approval. I kept my voice steady. "Yes." The officer didn't react emotionally. She wrote it down like it was weather. "Full name: Garrett Roach. Relationship: brother." My mother's shoulders shook once. The officer looked at her gently. "Ma'am, are you a witness?" My mother's eyes darted to me. I didn't answer for her. I waited. She inhaled, shaky. "I saw him at the counter," she whispered. "He used her card." The officer nodded and kept writing. "Thank you." My mother's gaze dropped to her hands, stunned by her own words. Under the table, I touched her wrist lightly. One brief contact. Her skin trembled, then steadied a fraction. The officer printed a statement. The printer whined, then spat paper that smelled faintly chemical and sharp. "Read and sign," she said. I read every line, slow and clean, then signed with my real signature, the one Garrett had tried to steal with loops and confidence. My mother signed too, her handwriting shaky but legible. The officer stamped the page and slid a copy toward me. The stamp ink smelled bitter. "You'll receive a case number," she said. "We'll coordinate with United and your bank." "Thank you," I said. When we stepped back into the terminal, baggage claim noise hit again. Rollers clacking, announcements echoing, a kid shrieking with delight over a surfboard bag. The contrast made my jaw tighten. My father was waiting near the carousel, face set like stone. Blanca stood beside him with the kids, sunglasses gone now, eyes bright with fury and fear. She looked at me like I'd committed a crime by refusing to be robbed quietly. My father's gaze went straight to my folder. "Enough," he said under his breath. "It's filed," I replied. Blanca snapped, "You're sick." I didn't look at her. I looked at my father. He lowered his voice, trying to build a private room inside a public place. "Drop it," he hissed. "No," I said. His nostrils flared. "He's your brother. He forged my name." My father's jaw worked, searching for shame like it was a tool he could still use. "You're humiliating us." "He did," I said. My mother stepped closer, beside me, not behind me. Her voice shook, but it held. "Stop," she said to my father. He stared at her like she'd spoken a language he didn't permit in his house. Blanca panicked loud. "What about the kids?" she demanded. Tom's voice came calm, final. "They'll be fine." Blanca's mouth tightened. My father's eyes darted around again, measuring witnesses, cameras, strangers slowing down to watch. He couldn't buy this room. He couldn't intimidate it without showing his hand. He leaned in close to me anyway, voice sharp as a whisper could be. "You're nothing," he said. I didn't match his heat. "I'm accountable," I said. For a second, he looked like he wanted to grab my folder and tear the paper out with his bare hands. Then he didn't. Because the cameras were above us and Tom was beside me, and my mother was standing upright like she'd remembered she had bones. My father turned away like reality was a stain. "We're leaving," he snapped to Blanca, grabbing a suitcase handle as if motion could erase documentation. Blanca hissed something back. Kids whining. the family machine grinding forward without understanding it had hit a wall. Tom nodded toward the exit. Let's go. We walked out into the warm Honolulu evening air. Diesel from shuttles mixed with ocean salt, and the breeze felt damp against my cheeks. A small flag decal on the terminal door caught the light as it swung shut behind us, bright and stubborn. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt aligned. In the car, the AC blew cold over my hands, raising goosebumps. My mother sat rigid in the passenger seat, phone clutched in both hands, screen dark. Tom drove, eyes on the road. Bank will reverse, he said. Police will proceed. Good, I replied. My mother finally spoke, voice small. He did this before. I turned slightly toward her. To you? She nodded without looking up. Small things, she whispered. Checks, cash, just borrow. The confession didn't surprise me. It explained too much. It was never small, I said. Her breath hitched. I told myself it was love. It was control, I said. She nodded once, like her body had known all along. At the hotel, Tom walked us to the lobby and stopped near the entrance, giving us space. The carpet smelled like coconut cleaner and damp luggage. If he contacts you, he said, save it. I will, I said. Upstairs, my mother stood by the window and pressed her palm to the glass like she needed to feel something solid. City lights blurred in humidity outside, soft and distant. My whole life, she whispered. I kept peace. I set the folder on the desk and let the stamped copy catch the lamp's warm light. Paper, proof, a line that didn't bend. Peace isn't silence, I said. My mother's phone buzzed in her hands. She glanced down and her face drained. Garrett's name filled her screen. She stared at it, thumb hovering over the answer button, shaking like the old reflex was trying to drag her back under. Then she hit decline. The tap was quiet, but it sounded like a door finally locking. My mother's thumb hovered over the screen like it was suspended by a lifetime of fear. Garrett's name glowed bright against the dim hotel lamp, insisting on access the way he always had, like love was a door that never locked. The room smelled faintly of coconut cleaner and damp luggage, and the AC blew cold air across my wrists until my skin tightened. My mother's hand shook once. Then she pressed decline. The tap was tiny, almost polite. But something in her shoulders changed, subtle, permanent, like a hinge finally remembering it could hold. She set the phone face down on the bedspread and stared at her empty hands as if she didn't recognize them without guilt in them. I didn't answer, she whispered. I kept my voice soft. I saw. Her eyes filled again. He'll punish me, she said. I didn't sugarcoat it. He'll try. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was unfamiliar. Two women in the same room without a man narrating what we were allowed to feel. My phone buzzed on the desk. A bank update from Elise. Reversal initiated. New card issued. The words were clinical. The effect wasn't. Garrett's champagne confidence had met a system that didn't care about his smile. My mother's phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a call. A text. She turned it over slowly like she was handling something sharp. Garrett, tell her to stop, now. My mother stared at the message until her mouth tightened into a line. She looked at me. What do I say? I didn't tell her what to write. I didn't take her voice for her. What's true? I asked. She swallowed, and for a moment she looked like someone climbing out of deep water. That I'm done, she whispered. I nodded once. Then say that. Her fingers moved carefully, trembling but deliberate. No. One word. She sent it. Then she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 20 years. A knock hit the door, firm, familiar, entitled. My mother froze. I didn't. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. My father stood in the hallway under soft hotel lighting, face set, jacket still on like he'd come straight from managing the fallout. The carpet behind him looked too clean for the weight he carried, and the air outside was quieter than it had any right to be. He knocked again. Maya, he called low. Open. I didn't open. I spoke through the door, calm. What do you want? A pause. Then the voice he used when he believed he was still the center of the family's gravity. Fix this, he said. I kept my tone flat. It's filed. His breath hitched. Drop it, he said. No, I answered. Silence on the other side, then a sharper edge. You're ruining us. I rested my palm against the doorwood and felt it solid beneath my hand. He forged my name, I said. My father's voice turned quiet and dangerous. He's your brother. He's a thief, I said. My mother stood behind me, trembling. I didn't step aside. I didn't let my father's presence fill the room. He tried a different lever, softer, meant to sound like reason. Think about the children, he said. I didn't argue. Think about the truth, I replied. Another pause, longer. Then my father's tone shifted into the one that always carried threat, dressed as disappointment. If you don't open this door, he said, don't come home. My mother made a small sound, like pain caught under ribs. I stared at the peephole's dark circle and felt something settle into me. Quiet, clean, unmovable. I already am home, I said. Silence. Then a small, ugly laugh from the hallway. You always wanted drama, my father muttered. I didn't rise to it. Good night, I said. I stepped away from the door, and after a beat, I heard his shoes retreat. Soft clicks fading down the hallway like a man walking away from a story he could no longer control. My mother sat on the bed edge and stared at the carpet, hands still shaking. He never leaves, she whispered. He just runs out of rooms, I said. She looked up at me then, eyes wet, face older than it had been yesterday. I let it happen, she said. I didn't let her drown in that. You're stopping it now, I replied. The next morning, Honolulu light poured through the curtains, bright and indifferent. The ocean smell drifted in faintly when I cracked the balcony door, salt and algae and warm air, and for a second it felt like the island was offering a clean start without asking permission. Tom met us in the lobby. He didn't talk about feelings. He talked about steps. United incident packet is logged, he said. Police report number is active. Bank's reversal is in motion. I nodded. Thank you. Tom's eyes flicked to my mother. You okay? He asked her gently. My mother's voice shook, but it held. I'm trying, she said. Tom nodded once like that was enough. At the bank call later, Elise's voice was calm again, as if theft was just another Tuesday. She confirmed the reversals, the new card issuance, the fraud affidavit. I signed electronically without hesitation, my name clean and real on the line where Garrett had tried to draw it for me. When the call ended, I took my wallet out and slid the black card free. Matte. Smooth. Heavy in my hand. For years, I'd kept it hidden like it was bait. Like showing it would invite my family's hunger. Now it looked different, not like a secret. Like a boundary. I held it over the hotel desk's wastebasket and paused. Not because I was sentimental, but because endings deserved accuracy. Then I cut it in half with the small hotel scissors from the stationery drawer. The plastic resisted for a moment, then gave with a sharp snap that sounded like a quiet promise kept. My mother flinched at the sound, then she nodded once, like she understood what it meant. It's just a card, she whispered. I set the two matte halves down on the desk, edges clean. It was never just a card, I said. It was permission. My mother stared at the pieces like she was seeing the shape of her life laid bare. I gave them permission, she said. You were trained to, I replied. She looked away, then back. Can I change? She asked, small. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. But you'll feel it. Her mouth tightened. Like detox, she whispered. I nodded once. Exactly, Ba. We flew home 2 days later. At the airport, the same smells followed us, coffee, disinfectant, jet fuel. But the air felt different because my mother walked beside me instead of behind my father. She didn't clutch my arm like she needed guidance. She simply stayed close, eyes forward, learning how to occupy space without apology. At the gate, a tiny flag sticker sat on the jet bridge window again. Bright, still, stubbornly present. My mother noticed it this time. She paused, just a heartbeat, then looked at me. I used to think that meant obey, she said softly. I watched the sticker catch the fluorescent light. It means endure, I answered. On the flight, my mother's phone buzzed once more with Garrett's name. She stared at it. Then she slid the phone into her bag without opening it. No shaking this time. No apology. When we landed, the air was cooler, sharper, and my father wasn't there. Maybe he was punishing us with absence. Maybe he was saving face. Either way, the quiet felt like relief. In my car, I placed the stamped police report copy into my home file drawer, beneath my service paperwork and next to my passport. Not as a trophy, as a boundary. My mother stood in my kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she didn't drink, and finally spoke like she'd been waiting for permission to say one honest thing in her own life. I loved him, she whispered, but I feared him more. I didn't correct her. I didn't soften it. I just nodded, because naming it was the beginning. Then I said the only thing I wanted us to carry forward, clean and small enough to remember. Truth costs less than silence.